Hello and welcome, I'm Casey. Today we're going to be going through some hip mobility and flexibility, like working on our splits, because when you do get into lots of harder balances, like arm balances, headstands and things like handstands, if you do need hip mobility, especially to do this sort of the splits. So especially like with Ekapada, Kundanyasana, yeah, you do need hip mobility. It's something I struggle with, as you'll be able to tell. I'm not that flexible, so it's something I need to work on more as well along with the strength. So that's something we're working on today. So we're going to start on our backs today. It's just coming down and taking one knee into your chest and just hugging it in nice and tight, or as long as it feels comfortable, especially if this is your first movement. And then if you can, just taking your hand behind your thigh and lifting your foot into the air. If you need to keep your leg bent, that's totally fine. And if you can take your hands up a little bit further, as long as there's no pain, just giving yourself a nice stretch. We'll be getting in deeper, so it's just nice and gentle. And just taking your foot in circles. And the other way. Then taking your foot across to the other side. I don't have any room, so I'll bend it. But you can bend your knee if you need to, but trying to keep that foot straight and just feeling the nice stretch down the side. And hugging your knee back in. And switching sides. Just pull into where it feels comfortable, because you might feel it quite tight on the top of your hip. And just straightening that leg. Again, bending that knee if you feel you need to. And taking your foot in circles. And the other way. Releasing that back down. Now either rolling over or coming up over into our downward facing dog. Now this is just to give ourselves a little bit of a stretch here. We won't stay long. Just to get to that nice stretch in the back of your legs. And then looking forward and slowly walking to the top of your mat. Inhale, a half lift, and exhale, coming into your forward fold. If you need to bend your knees here, that's fine. Just gently, you're not wanting to go too far into it, we're just starting. You can walk your legs out if you feel you need to. And then taking an inhale, half lift. Exhale, taking that right foot back and coming into your low lunge. Now first, before sinking into your low lunge, I want you to activate your two thighs together. So it's really holding and clenching in real tight for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then release and sinking into your low lunge. And then hands to the ground, pulling your hips back and coming into your half split. So making sure that your left hip is pulling back to keep your hips square. If you need to keep your knee bent here, you can do that. And then coming back forward into our low lunge, and again, squeezing your two inner thighs in for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then sinking into your low lunge. And then coming back into our half split. Trying to reach your chest forward. The more you reach your chest forward and straight instead of rounding the back, the more you'll feel the stretch along the back of your leg and pulling that left hip back and the right hip forward. And one more time, coming into your low lunge. Squeezing your two legs together, clenching everywhere for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. And hands back to the ground, coming back into your half split. Now you can use blocks here, or take your right hand to the inside of your left foot, or even if you're a little bit more flexible, you can take it to the outside and taking your left hand up onto your left hip, coming into a nice twist. You should feel that twist all down the left side, the outer left side of your left thigh. And reaching that hand up if you can, pulling that chest through and releasing back down. Coming forward, stepping that left foot back into your high plank and bring the right foot forward. So again on the other side, turning everything on and squeezing in for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then sink into it. Hands to the ground, pulling that right hip back this time. Pulling the chest through to keep the back as straight as you can. And then coming forward, turning everything on for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and sink into your low lunge. And hands to the ground. Pulling that right hip back. This side feels a lot tighter for me. And last time, turning it all on for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and sinking down. And coming back into your half split. And again, taking your left hand now either to the inside or to the outside. I might not be able to do the outside. And taking your right hand to your right hip, pulling your chest through. Feeling that nice stretch, a bit wobbly. It's a nice stretch down the side of your thigh. Lifting your arm up, pulling your chest through. Ooh, I feel that. And release. And taking your right foot wide, stepping your left foot forward, coming into your Malasana squat. If you can't get your heels on the ground, that's okay. And just slowly pulling your knees apart with your elbows. And hands to the ground. Walking your feet in a little bit, coming up into a half lift, and exhale into your forward fold. And just noticing if this feels any better than it did before. I'm still feeling super tight. And taking your hands down, inhale, half lift, exhale, taking that right foot back and coming up into your high lunge. Making sure your hips are square, activating again, turning on those thighs, drawing them together. Ribs are in, making sure they're not protruding out. And dropping that back foot down into your warrior one. Adjust your feet if you feel you need to. Taking your hands behind you, clasping behind you, leading with your chest and your head, leaning forward and coming down into your humble warrior. Releasing your hands to the ground, straightening that front knee, pulling that left hip back if you need to come into your pyramid pose. So your left hip may have come forward a bit. Just making sure you're pulling back into that left hip. And taking your right hand, you can take it on the outside if you can, taking your right hand down and taking your left hand to your left hip and coming into a revolved triangle. Taking the left hand up into the air. And release. And stepping that left foot back, coming forward with your right. And coming up into your high lunge. Activating those legs together, drawing them in. And release, taking that left foot back down on the 45 into your warrior one. Taking your hands beside you, clasping your hands together and leading with your chest, coming into your humble warrior. Pulling that right hip back, taking your hands to the ground, straightening that front knee, coming into your pyramid pose. Always trying to lead with your chest. Now taking your left hand to either on the inside or the outside of your right foot and opening up. Taking your hand up to the sky if that's available to you. And bringing your hands back down, bending into that front knee, stepping forward. Coming again into your malasana squat. Now, if you need to for this next exercise, you can sit your bum on the ground, but we're just going to alternate taking our knee to the ground. So like this, so down to the ground. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Placing your hands on the ground, walking your feet in, coming up into half lift and back into your forward fold. You can walk your legs out if you feel you need to. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, stepping that right foot back, turning it on the 90 degree. You might just need to adjust your feet positioning a bit and coming up into your warrior two. Now making sure that right hip is tucking down so it's not twisting out. Again, magnets, drawing your two inner thighs together. And then coming up, adjusting your feet so they're just both pointing out to the corners of your mat and coming down into your goddess. Now here, again, squeezing those inner thighs in and up for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax down. You can come to where it's comfortable for you. Just pull your knees out a little bit. And then coming up, slightly bringing your toes in, your heels out, hands behind your back. Inhale up, exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. And then coming down into the left side into Skandasana. If you need your hands on the ground here for support, that's fine. And if you need your heel off the ground, if not, make sure you're pointing your right toes to the ceiling, feeling that nice, lovely stretch. Hands to the ground. Pivoting to the front of your mat, heel toeing the left foot out and coming down into your lizard lunge. You can have some movement here if you feel you need to. You can take your foot onto the blade of your left foot and pull your knee out if that feels good. Obviously, we're all very different mobility in our hips, so whatever feels good for you here. And coming back up, bringing that right foot forward. Sorry, no we're not. We're taking the left foot back and bringing the right foot forward now and coming up into our warrior two on the other side. Again, making sure your left hip is down, pulling down and under, and drawing those two thighs up and together, making sure your knee is over your ankle. Squeezing and releasing, coming up, taking your toes to the outsides of your mat and coming down into your goddess. Now squeezing for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then coming down. Taking your knees a little bit wide with your hands if that feels good. And inhale, coming up, whoop, taking your toes inwards, your heels a little bit out, hands behind your back. I'd better move. Inhale up and exhale, lead with your chest, coming down into your forward fold. Wide-legged forward fold. Inhale up, and then coming down into your Skandasana on the right side. Again, taking any movement that feels right for you. Have your heel off the ground if you need to, have support. And then hands to the ground, coming over into our lizard on the other side. Open up that right hip if that feels good for you. You can come down onto your elbows. Now bringing that left foot back, stepping forward into Amalasana squat. Now we're going to take our knees and just squeeze them into our elbows for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then release. So the whole squeezing is you also need to build muscle around that. That's not necessarily building muscle, but you want to also build strong muscles around these joints to then have the flexibility. And hands to the ground, coming up into your half lift and forward fold. Now just noticing here what the difference is between now and the beginning of the class, if there is any difference. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, bringing that right foot back and coming into your low lunge. Taking a few breaths here, feeling a nice stretch down your right front of your leg. Pulling back and coming into your half split. Oh, this feels a lot different for me already. Making sure you're pulling that left hip back. You're wanting to keep your hips as square as you can. Now you can have props here, blocks or something to hold on to. But we're going to now work our way down, just pulling your left foot forward, your right foot back, coming down into our split. Now, if you notice, my hips are open, so I can get a lot open, like I'm opening my hips, but you actually more want to keep your hips square. So when my hips are square, I actually can't get down as low. If you wanted to, you could always work on opening your hips first and doing it that way and then squaring up your hips, but if you want to get it done the right way the first time, well, not the right way, but keeping it with your hips square, then you can just keep your hips square and just go down as far as you can with your hips square. After a while you might notice you might be able to go down a little bit further. And taking any movement if you feel you need to, like rocking back and forth. And then slowly coming back up the way you went in. And stepping that front foot back and coming into our downward dog. This is just for a quick transition and give ourselves a stretch. Now bringing the right foot forward and coming into your low lunge. Hands to the ground, coming into your half split. Now slowly working that front foot forward and the back foot back. Keeping your hips as square as you can. And then slowly coming back out the way we went in, so pulling that front foot forward and the back foot in. Coming back into your down dog and giving yourself a little bit of a shake. Your legs a bit of a walk. Now we're going to come onto, you can come sideways onto your mat if it's more comfortable, and we're going to come into our frog. So keeping your heels in line with your knees, going to come as comfortable as you can, then squeeze in for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then relaxing down. Now come where you feel comfortable at first, because otherwise it can get quite painful, and then move further into it as your body releases. So if you come into it, if you want to take it deeper as well, push your hips back. So if your knees can't quite come any wider, you can always push back, and that will take the pose deeper. You can get a pillow and relax here. And slowly, to get out of it, you can bring your hips forward if you're in quite deep, and come out of it that way. And just come into a seated position. Give your legs a bit of a windshield wipe. And slowly coming down onto your back. And bringing your knees into your chest, giving them a hug. Taking them in circles, if that feels good. And taking your left leg down and your right knee, pulling it into your right armpit. And release. And bringing in your left knee up into your left armpit. And release into your final Shavasana. So you can stay as long as you want. That was a lot of stretching on your lower body. So just notice how you feel tomorrow or the next day before you go and do that again. Just always honor your body. And if you're ready to, rolling over onto your side and coming up into a seated position. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Namaste.